السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We start in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We seek refuge in Him from the evil and the curse of the devil. We start in the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. We send our peace and blessings upon the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu. We testify that there is no deity worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Muhammad is his last and final messenger. Inshallah, today I wanted to talk about this last and final messenger, the importance he plays in our lives, and the lives of those who are to come after us, and the lives of those who preceded us. So I'll start with an ayah from the Quran, a verse in Surah Al-Qalam, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, بعد أن نعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وإنك لعلى خلق عظيم. And indeed you are of high moral character. So when we look at this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator, the master, the most merciful, is telling us, he's actually directly talking to Muhammad and telling him that he has high noble character. The way he carries himself is exemplary. And that is for us to follow. So I wanted to just point out a few aspects of his character, so that we may follow him, follow in his footsteps, and inshallah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant us Jannah and the ability to meet the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu. So the important thing that we'll start talking about is the fact that the Prophet alayhi salatu was one individual who changed the dynamics of the world, the social order, the political order, and the economic philosophies of many a nation and many a people. So what are these characteristics that he had that allowed the people to follow him? What are the specific things that drove people to love him? Why was he labeled as a mercy to all mankind? We know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent a prophet to every nation. And we know that he sent Muhammad alayhi salam to all the nations, to all the people. So what are some of these qualities? The first thing we know is that when he used to talk to people, he used to make them feel important. So when he would look at them, he would give them all the attention so that they think that they're the only individual in the world. Nowadays, we look and we meet each other and say, hey, assalamu alaikum, dude, what's up, how you doing? And we keep going. When he used to shake your hand, he would direct his entire attention toward you and look at you and smile and ask how you're doing. He would remember people's names. Prophet Muhammad, he would speak with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the divine. And imagine, this individual, he would speak with this entity, this deity. And yet at the same time, while conversing with the greatest, the most powerful, the most beneficent, he would be able to remember everyone's names. So if he would meet someone and he would go to a talk, or he would do something, he would come back a few months later and say, hey, assalamu alaikum, how you doing? Like he would say the name, Samia, Ahmed, Muhammad, Nadia. He would remember the person's name. And yes, Amen. So people would feel important, like, oh, the leader of this ummah, the leader of this nation, remembers me? Wow, I'm so significant, like, he really cares about me. And that drives people to love him. One thing is, like actually the most important quality of his, alayhi salam, is that he was genuine. Now what does this word mean? Genuine, sincere. He has ikhlas. What does it mean exactly? It means when I'm talking to you, I actually care. I actually feel. I actually have a sense of, I feel that you're important enough for me to contribute my time and speak with you. If I ask you, how are you? Then I really care. How are you? Like I'm not just saying, how you doing? Just like, start convo, bounce midway. Instead, he would ask because he wanted to know, how was your state of affairs? How's school? How are your classes? He would offer advice to those who wanted it. And he was merciful with everyone. The kids loved him, the adults adored him, everyone loved him. And that was because of some of these qualities which he had, alayhi salatu wasalam. So I know, like usually, if I'm walking and I see someone, as soon as I heard this lecture by Sheikh Hamza Yusuf about a hadith that Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anhu narrated, as soon as I heard the story, that the Prophet used to care and was genuine, I became so appreciative of this man's character that I wanted to emulate it. Nowadays, I actually want to know about other people. And I try to remember people's names. Sometimes it's a mission, and sometimes Allah allows me to remember people's names. I remember Kareem's name, and his email, his number, and his birthday, everything. It's almost like I'm stalking him. But so one thing about him is that we know that he was honest and trustworthy. We know that he was a Sadiq and Ameen. He was so honest and trustworthy that even when he immigrated from Mecca to Medina during the Hijrah, we know that the Quraysh trusted him so much so that even though they were persecuting him, they left their valuables with him. He was the bank of Quraysh, and he was the young one. They entrusted him because they knew his character, they knew his akhlaq. So actually the Prophet ﷺ left Ali bin Abi Talib to return the valuables to these people, to return these items back to their owners, because it was an amanah. And sometimes if someone tells us to take care of something, hey, can you watch my laptop, can you watch my books? You're not even paying attention. Like, if they get stolen, you're like, hey, it's your fault. Right? So some of us have to just be a little bit more engaging and interested in what's going on in the world, and how we treat other people. And one thing about the Prophet ﷺ, and this is in a very important book in which I read multiple times, and I encourage you all to read it. Like, it's such a great book, and I recommend that you all read it right after the Quran, because it basically talks about this man, Muhammad ﷺ. This book was written by an American in the 1930s. His name was Dale Carnegie, and the name of the book is How to Win Friends and Influence People. I know it's kind of like, oh, dude, you're reading a book to get friends. Like, what is that? How does that make sense? But it teaches you how to interact with others, how to speak with others, how to meet others. So one thing about the Prophet ﷺ, and one thing that Dale Carnegie mentions, is that he used to compliment people. He used to give people compliments. And why? Because he didn't have that ego where he felt like, oh, if I give this person a compliment, like, it degrades for my self-esteem, it degrades for my self-worth, it takes away from me. Instead, he would freely offer compliments like, oh, that's a really nice shirt. Oh, those are nice glasses. That's a nice hijab. People give out compliments, and sometimes it's tough for us to say, oh my God, I just gave him a compliment. But when we do it, other people are more encouraged to speak with you, because they feel like, oh, this person respects me, this person treats me with high regard. They like my glasses, they like my shoes, they like my shirt. And some of us, we like something and we're jealous. We don't even have the chance to say mashallah. If we say mashallah, that you have really nice hair, people are going to start to like you more. And one thing, there was a study done that a person's most favorite word to hear, so the best person a person likes for their ear to encounter is, I don't know if you can guess, but it's a person's own name. So if I say Kareem, 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 he's going to start loving me more than a person who wouldn't say his name. If I remember you and I call you by your name, like, hey Sammy, how are you? Or, hey Samuel, what's going on? People are going to feel like, oh, he remembered me. Not only that, like, he really cares, and he was genuine about that. And if I would compliment somebody, the Prophet ﷺ would be happy to give those compliments at any time. Another thing that the Prophet ﷺ used to do was that whenever he would say someone, he would offer his salams. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Now if we look at this, we're saying, peace be upon you, and the blessings and the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's not just like a hey, or how are you? It's actually, you're wishing someone for peace to be descended on them. So if they're angry, if they're in a fit, if they're yelling, if they got in an accident, if they're mad, if they failed the test, you're telling them, Assalamu alaikum, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descend His peace upon you. So you don't have to feel that chaotic situation within you. And so we say Assalamu alaikum, but we don't even really mean it. We're not even genuine anymore. Some of us butchers say, hey, salams or sa'ikum. It's like not even Assalamu alaikum. Sa'ikum. And I've been prone to it too, so I'm not saying like I'm perfect, but it's just a thought for every one of us to think about. And we know the Prophet ﷺ, one time, he said that The best person is the one who begins with the salam. The person who says assalamu alaikum first. So if I see you and I say assalamu alaikum, how are you? Then I get more ajr. So one time Abu Bakr, the first Khalifa, and Umar, the second Khalifa, had seen each other, and they looked at each other and they saw each other, but they didn't say salams. So it went on for a period, a few. I don't know exactly the time, but let's just say it went on for an hour or so. And the Prophet ﷺ looks at them and he says, "You guys haven't said salam to each other. Why?" And Abu Bakr tells the Prophet ﷺ, "I haven't said salam to Umar because I want him to say salam first so he can get the ajr." And Umar says, "I don't want to say salam first because I want Abu Bakr to say the salam first so he can get the ajr." So each one of them was willing to sacrifice for the other. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, He says, وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ. And they bid others upon themselves. They promote others on top of themselves, even if it is for them a loss, so to speak. So if there's one burger left, I would give you the burger because I'm sacrificing myself for you. And the Prophet ﷺ always used to treat himself last. When there was a war and there was booty to be given out, some Sahaba used to rush at the booty like, "Oh, we want that horse, we want this medal, we want this sword." And the top-notch Sahaba would take a distant step backward, and they would say, "Oh, we don't want some of that right now. Let the others have." But some of us are so selfish that we don't think that the character of the Prophet ﷺ was that he would prefer others to himself. And it's really a thought to think about. I learned this when I was in 3rd grade. And we stopped at a little market, a MYSA market, and we bought the twisted Fritos, the honey barbecue. And at that time it was like when it newly came out. And I was excited to eat it, me and my cousin and my sister. So we get it, my aunt buys it for us, and she's in the driver's seat, so we're eating it. And after we're done eating it, she's like, "Is there any more?" She knew that we had finished. So she says, "Is there any more left? Can I have some?" And then we all just like sheepishly looked down like, "Oh, like Khati, sorry, auntie, like there's no more left." And at that point I really felt like, wow, what kind of human being am I? This person bought these chips for me. I barely thanked them, and then I ate them without offering any to them. How ungrateful am I? And it really just gives one a perspective where people give us stuff and we take it for granted. The love that our mothers give to us, the money that our fathers present to us, we take it for granted. It's like, "Where's my allowance? You haven't given it to me yet." It's like just giving birth to you is enough. And then you're just asking for more and more favors. So we really have to think about it and see that we are nowhere near the Prophet ﷺ. And we make dua, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us just give us a 10th or 100th of the Prophet ﷺ's character. Another thing is that when there's an argument, the Dale Carnegie also mentions this, is that if you're in an argument, stop arguing. Because either way, you're going to lose. So if you win the argument, yeah, you won the argument. So one thought it won, someone else 0. But really, in reality, you actually lost that friendship. You lost that connection. Because everyone here has an ego. And no one wants their ego to be stepped on. So if you beat me in an argument, I'm like, "Oh dude, he thinks he's better than me, I hate him." So if you win the argument, you're losing. And if you lose the argument, you lost like after debating. So you might as well take a step back, hold your reservations and not argue, because either way you're going to lose. And I hope that you take that into consideration, because sometimes we argue with our parents, with our friends, like, "Hey, I'm more knowledgeable than you. Like, look, I got into like UCLA. I'm the president of this club. I'm this and that." And people don't really care. And a quote that I heard was that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So if you show another individual that you care about them, that you care about their health, about their well-being, then they will care to see how much you know. Because if you're the smartest individual here, and you're talking to me with arrogance, I'm gonna look at you and say, okay, like, don't even talk to me, get away. Like, I'm not interested. Because I don't want somebody to step on my ego, if you will. So here's some of the lessons that we should take from the Prophet ﷺ's character and try to see if we can implement them in our lives. So the Prophet ﷺ, even though he was this great leader and this powerful being, this divine messenger, we know that he still joked around with people. So there's people who take themselves all seriously and they don't interact with others like, hey, Assalamu alaikum, my name is whatever. Like, I'm a shaykh here. But people don't want people to be serious all the time. Because people like to laugh. It's a good thing, right? And so, actually, on that point, just to touch, we know that the Prophet ﷺ says, a smile is charity, right? A smile is charity. So if we smile, I've just given charity for the sake of Allah Ta'ala. But sometimes we're in class or we're in lectures or we're talking to others, we're just like frowning at the speaker like, aren't you going to be finished already? And it really doesn't take much to just smile up at the speaker or smile at your teacher or the person you're talking to when you meet somebody. Because it gives them a sense of encouragement like, oh, you know, they like what I'm saying, I'm going to keep talking. And I'm not saying about me, I'm just saying like in general. And it's always a good thing to smile because the smile, there's actually a quote that says, laughter is the closest distance between two people. So if you're just meeting someone and you joke around and they laugh, they take a sense of ease, there's like that sense of ease. They're like, oh, this guy's cool, like I can talk to him. But if you're all straightforward and uptight, you're going to say, okay, I can't wait to get out of here. And so we should just keep that in mind. And so one thing that Prophet ﷺ was that he would always try to look out for the best in the community. So he would sometimes give out random gifts to people. And sometimes it's cool where you see someone and you give them a box of chocolates. Like, here's a box. They're like, okay, what do you want from me? Let's just be real. And you tell them, I don't want anything. I just thought of you and I thought of these chocolates. And people like that. People like to be gifted. People like to feel important. So when you guys talk to others, when your parents, your teachers, always recognize that there's an authority to your elders, and that you have to treat them so. And actually, a funny story is that about, in terms of relating the fact that you shouldn't argue and also praise people. Let me just expand on the fact that you should praise people first. Or you shouldn't, but like, people like I said, to feel important. So when you praise them, they feel good about themselves. Like if you're introducing two individuals to each other, let's just say I'm introducing Ahmed to Abdullah. I'll say, hey Abdullah, look at Muhammad, this guy's an awesome man. Like, he knows how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Or he knows the Quran. Or this guy's a scholar. This guy's a hafiz. This guy is talented. He's an artist. He's a singer. And people are like, oh, you're a singer? Oh, tell me more. Because people, let me tell you, it's like psychologically, people love to talk about themselves. I love to talk about myself. I'll tell you, I go here, I do this, I own this, I play with this. And people like that, to talk about themselves. So when you're in a conversation, you should ask questions that will lead others to talk about themselves. Actually, I went to my professor the other day, and she's new to UCLA, and she's new to the whole Los Angeles area. So I wanted to, make her feel good and whatnot. I told her that she was an awesome lecturer and whatnot. And then I told her, I asked her to talk about herself, like, oh, where'd you go for undergrad? Where'd you go for college? Where'd you go for your PhD? Whatnot. And she started telling me. And she was so engrossed in telling me that stuff, then soon I started asking questions like, hey, when did you meet your husband? It's like, whoa, you're getting too personal here. So, just make sure to keep that balance. But also, people like to talk about themselves, so make sure you do that. In terms of, going back to praising others and not arguing. One time, it was Ramadan. I was going to an event, a fundraising dinner. And as I was going to this dinner, I was speeding a little bit. Not too much, a little bit. And so then, iftar is at 7:49, and it was 7:40, and the place that I was to get to was 15 minutes away. So I didn't pay attention to the speed limit. I was driving real fast. All of a sudden, cop stopped me. He gets down. I'm like, oh my God, subhanallah, I'm in a hurry, and then I suddenly get stopped by a cop. Like, you know, when things go wrong, they go wrong. But then I saw what he stopped me. He came down. He's like, "Hey, do you know why? I mean, do you know how much you're going?" I was like, "No, I'm sorry, I don't." He says, "You're going whatever the speed was." And then he tells me, "Why were you speeding?" And I tell him, "You know, officer, I'm really sorry. You're absolutely right. I was speeding, and I shouldn't have been doing that. I'm wrong, and I apologize. But I'm just fasting, and we're supposed to eat in 9 minutes. And I guess I wasn't thinking. I was thinking with my stomach." So he starts laughing, and he's like, "Okay." I was like, "You know, I'm really sorry, and hopefully I'll never do this again. I've never been stopped by a cop, so can you just let me go?" And he says, "No, why would I let you go? Then how are you going to learn, right?" And so I tell him, "Yeah, I guess you're right." And so I tell him, "You know, I'm a college student, like, please." And then he's like, "Hold on, I'll be right back." So he's like, "Where's your license?" And I look, it's like, "Oh, I forgot my license at home." And then, thankfully, I had my driver's license number memorized. So I told him the number. So he's like, "All right, wait here." So he went to his car. He came back. He had a paper with him. And so my dad's like, he looked in the mirror. He's like, "Oh my God, he wrote the ticket." And so he comes to me. And he says, "I just checked out your record. You're clean, and you can go ahead and leave and have a blessed Ramadan and enjoy your meal." I was like, "Wow, subhanallah." Check this out. I made dua right before he came to me when he went to his car, because it was Ramadan. And Ramadan, right before you break your fast, your dua is accepted. And so I made dua, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved me from that sum of money that I was supposed to pay. And the cop let me go. So the cop feels that he's an authority in the land. He has authority to give people tickets, take people to jail. So when a person recognizes that authority, the officer recognizes, oh, like this guy is not out to undermine my power. This guy understands that I'm the man. I'm the boss here. And so when I was nice to him, he was like, "Oh, this guy's nice. I'm gonna let him go." This is in contrast to one of my roommates, who we went to the Grand Canyon last winter. And so as we were going, my roommate was really speeding. And the cop stops us. And my roommate says, "Hey guys, don't say anything, I'm gonna do the talking." So we're like, okay, this guy's gonna try to sweet talk him. And instead he says, "Hey, are you gonna give me a ticket? Just give it to me." And the cop's like, "Oh, really? Okay." He goes and he stamps him with a ticket, $900. $900. Because he undermined his authority. Because he treated him, he told him like, "You're nothing, I don't care about you." And so the cop's like, "Oh, really? Alright, well here, enjoy this." Instead, if he said, "Oh, you know, officer, we're just trying to get to the Grand Canyon before nightfall. We're new to this area. We don't even live in this state," the cop would have been more lenient, and the ticket would have been probably less. And the thing we learn from this is to see how the Prophet ﷺ used to carry himself in different situations, difficult situations. So one time there was a chef who had 3 items. He had a carrot, he had an egg, and he had some coffee. So the carrot, as you guys know, it's hard. It's tough. So when he put it in the boiling water, what do you think happened to the carrot? It became all soft and willowy. And he took the egg, which is soft, and he put it in the boiling water, and what do you think happened? It got hard. And so then he took the coffee, and he put it in the coffee, and the entire mixture, the entire boiling water became coffee. It was a homogeneous mixture of coffee. So we look at this analogy, and we check out how is it related to us. Like, okay, coffee, eggs, and carrots. Okay, I ate 2 of them and I drink 1 of them. But the thing is, when a tough situation hits us, how are we going to react? If we're hard, are we going to soften like the carrot and fall? Or are we going to harden like the egg and be all stubborn? Or are we going to be like the coffee and tailor the situation to what we are? Are we going to become like the coffee and change everything to suit us? We're not going to become hard. We're not going to become soft. We're going to become just right, inshallah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's how the Prophet ﷺ was. During times of war or during times of peace. He was straight in the middle. Straight in the middle. Like an arrow. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made him that way so we could learn from his example. He would always ask the advice of others. He wouldn't just say, "Okay, I'm the Prophet, everyone listen to me," like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving me the revelations. So when there was the battle of Badr, after the Muslims camped out, and then they told him, "Oh Rasulullah, like we should go in front of the wells, in front of the water, so that way Quraysh doesn't get to the water, and then they'll take the water, and then we'll be deprived of it. That way we can, have this thing over them." So the Prophet ﷺ was like, "What do you guys all think?" And they all agreed, and then he moved the camp that way. So we look at this and we say, okay, this guy's the leader. This guy's the big boss. And he's not saying that I'm the boss, you listen to me, it's my way, the highway. He says, whatever you guys want. Because he cares. Because he loves all of us. And even us. And I'm not sure if I said this story the last time I came here, but it's such a great story that I'll say it again. Where the Prophet ﷺ was given the choice to be seated on the right side of the throne of Allah Ta'ala on the Day of Judgment, or the left side of the throne on the Day of Judgment. And we know that when Allah Ta'ala is sitting on His throne, the Jannah or paradise is on the right, and Jahannam is on the left, or hell. And so the Prophet ﷺ was given the opportunity to choose, and he chose to sit on the left side of the throne. So he was asked, "Why the left side, Rasulullah, when you could have been on the right side and closer to Jannah?" And he said, "That way when I see any one of my ummah being led to hellfire, I can grab him from here and pull him to Jannah. I can intercede with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on his behalf." So he loved us so much so that he preferred to be near the Jahannam, near the burning, raging fire, than be next to the luscious paradise. Why? Does he know us? Has he met us? No. But does he love us? I can guarantee you that he does. From this one example, and from many other countless examples. And we know that the Prophet ﷺ, when he was in Mecca, there was a Jewish lady who would always come and throw things in front of his door. Trash, intestines, wood. And that's disgusting. Like, imagine every single day you have to encounter this thing, you have to move it and throw it away. And how would the Prophet react? Do you think that he'd be like, "Okay, dude, like, come on, like, you're killing me." You're like, "Seriously, stop. I want to leave my apartment. I want to leave my place in peace." Instead, he would remove it every day, and he would act like nothing happened. So when she got sick, he visited her. Imagine, the person who's throwing intestines at you, you're going to visit them. You care about them. Because they are fellow human beings. And eventually she became Muslim. Because da'wah, giving da'wah to others, is not about handing out flyers or Qur'ans or giving lectures. It's about the interaction that you have with others. How do you treat other people? Do you treat them with love, with kindness, with mercy? Or do you treat them with like this hardness and stubbornness? One time we were at Sam's Club, my sister and I, and my sister, she wears the scarf. And so our car was loaded. We were getting ready to go to UCLA. And so there was this old white man behind us. And he had 4 items in his car. So we looked at it, he was like looking at our stuff like, okay, these guys have a lot of stuff. And so then I told my sister, I was like, "Hey Dania, go tell him that he can go ahead of us." So I was thinking like, I'll tell him. But then I don't give off the Muslim look. So I'll just look like another, nice person. And I'm not saying that just because then, like my sister has the hijab on, that she gives off the Muslim look. But it's just more apparent. That when she has the hijab on, it's like, okay, I know. I can identify this person as a Muslim. So she told the man, "Oh, hi sir, how you doing?" And he's like, he was kind of like surprised, like, "Oh, how am I? Oh, I'm doing well, how are you?" And she's like, "Oh, you can go ahead of us. I know you just have a few items." And he's like, "Oh wow, like, thank you so much." So subhanAllah, his face changed. In the beginning, when he was standing in line, he was like looking at us all suspiciously, or he was a little bit nerve-wracked. And then when we let him go, he's like, "Oh, Muslims are fellow human beings too. Like, they exist, they're part of society, and I care about them, and they care about me." And that's one of our duties as citizens here of the United States of America. When we pledge allegiance to the United States, knowing that we're citizens, we know that we serve the country that we're living in. So following the laws is incumbent upon us. We must follow the laws, we must care about the elections, about whatnot. One time there was a Bedouin who came in, and he came to the Prophet ﷺ and he told him, give me from what you have. Not from what your mother or your father gave you, not from what you inherited. I want something from what you have. And so the Sahaba were like, whoa, 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 whoa. Dude, this is the Prophet. Like, you can't talk to him this way. And so the Prophet ﷺ was like, it's okay, let him go. So then he opened his door to his house and he's like, go ahead and take whatever you wish. So the Bedouin man walks in, he takes what he wants, and then he's leaving. And then he asks him, have I dealt fairly with you? Have I honored you? And the Bedouin responds to the Prophet, ﷺ, he tells him, yes, by Allah you have honored me. So then he walks away. He comes back and he's like, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. So he becomes Muslim because he sees how the Prophet interacted with him. And the Prophet ﷺ tells the Sahaba, he tells them, the story of the Bedouin and me and you is like the story of a man who has a camel. He lets his camel go and the camel starts running. So the people start running after him and chasing the camel. And as the camel sees that he's being yelled at and chased, he starts running away. But when the man, the owner of the camel, he tells them, stop running after him. He picks up some grass and he feeds the camel. The camel comes back to the man. So it's not about yelling and being loud and obnoxious and, being mighty. No. It's about being soft, hayyin layyin. Be merciful, be loving, be caring, be generous, be genuine. And that is the most important characteristic there is, being genuine. Being genuine and being genuine. One time, Imam Hassan al-Basri, rahimahullah, there was a man who had backbitten about Hassan al-Basri. So when you backbite, you know that the person who backbites against you, you get some of their good deeds. So let's say John backbit about me, then I get his good deeds. And so when Imam Hassan al-Basri heard that this man backbit about him, he didn't get all mad. He didn't get all sad. Instead, he sent back the man a box of dates. And with these dates, he told him, I'm sorry I couldn't return the gift to you in full. Like, thank you for giving me some of your good deeds, and here's something in return. So when we think about it, that's like so what's the word? So like irrational. Like how do we rationalize something like this? Someone backbit about me and I go give them something. Somebody's spreading rumors about me and I go give them presents. Like, what? Since when? And we just know that the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba and the Tabi'een used to hold themselves to a higher character. And knowing that, we know that's why Islam dominated Eurasia and Africa for a good part of many centuries. And it's been able to transform the world into what we know it today. And sometimes it's good to see, or it's good to admit that we make mistakes. We are humans. And كل بني آدم خطاء وخير الخطائين التوابين. Every individual, every human being, every son of Adam is a person who makes mistakes. And the best of those who make mistakes are those persons who ask for forgiveness and for tawbah. And we're not infallible like the Prophet ﷺ. We do make mistakes. We're not perfect. And the thing is to resolve this. Appreciate it. And the thing is, when we know that we're wrong, the best way to handle it is not to be arrogant and say, oh, I didn't make a mistake, it's your fault, you understood me wrong. Rather, you apologize and you tell them, I'm really sorry I offended you. Or I'm sorry that I might have hurt you, it wasn't my intention. As long as you're genuine, people will see it. Because if you're fake, people are going to see right through you. If I tell you you have a nice shirt, but you really don't, or you should change it, and you can tell that I'm lying to you, or that I'm not being truthful, it kind of hurts. Like, this guy's, he's not being truthful. But if I tell you that, oh, your curls are cool, then it's just there, that sense of sincerity. And we strive, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the ability to be genuine, to be caring, to be loving, and to emulate the character of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And the Prophet ﷺ was such a caring individual. Unfortunately, he didn't have the blessing of having his parents around. But some of us do. And we have to take advantage of that. And tonight when we go home, go and give your dad a kiss. Give your mom a kiss. And it's not something that's, oh my God, he gave his mom a kiss, he gave his dad. It's like they feel loved. Because they were there for you when you were sick and they stayed up the whole night. They had to wake up and make lunch for you, give you a snack. So when you go to school, you don't get hungry in the middle of class. They were there helping you learn how to read. How does TH make the? How does that sound come out? Who taught you that? It was your parents. And we have to appreciate them. And we have to give them the credit where credit is due. So أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, anything that I've said that is good and correct is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anything that I've made a mistake or I was wrong in is from the shaitan. جزاكم الله خيرا. أستودعكم الله الذي لا تضيع ودائعه والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
خلص بصورة قرآنية الله يرضى عليك.
And inshallah we'll finish with Surah Al-Asr. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر صدق الله العظيم. جزاكم الله خيرا.
تكبير.